Andrew McCART, IFL TV, in association with MTK Global. Got to say, I am over the moon to be joined by Cynthia Conte. It's that laugh, you know, it's so contagious, so I'm happy with that. It's infectious. Cynthia, I met you out in Vegas on Fury Wilder 2, then we flew out to Texas for the Mikey Garcia.
No. Correction. I didn't meet you on Tuesday. I saw you. I never met you. I actually met you in Texas.
Well, we saw each other in Vegas.
Hours for Eddie Hearn. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, that's the UK bias, when we can do that with Eddie. I know you Americans hate that.
You saw me. I fell asleep on the chairs. Yeah. But no, it's thank you for inviting me on. This is so fun. I'm honored. I'm excited to talk boxing, and I love the UK fans, and I got to do a fight out there. I mean, eventually when boxing comes back, but it's incredible. It's fun. Well, thank you.
For the UK fans, for the UK fight fans, or the IFL viewers that are going to watch this, Cynthia, just break down how you got involved in the sport of boxing. I know, like, if people that follow you on Instagram, they know that picture of you and Mike Tyson is in every single interview you do. So maybe you can tell the backstory behind that. But just break down how you got started in the sport.
How I got started in the sport, well, I boxed, not professionally, but just to stay in shape for years. And my trainer, it was a gym called Bomb Squad in Santa Monica, and then also at Wildcard. But I used to own gyms. So two of my gyms, and it just happened to have boxing rings, and two of them, my last one, okay, this is like flashing. What's going on?
I know, I've noticed that, but we'll get through it. We'll live with it. We've got to live with it.
I know. At least you get the audio. Admiral Mates and Oscar Valdez actually trained out of one of my gyms, and then I had to sell them because the city bought it to make freeways. I said, I'll take the money. And so it's fine. But that's how it kind of fell in. I was in news, and then I needed a job when I moved back from New York. And I'm like, what do I love to do? I love to talk to people. I love to interview, and I love boxing. This fell into my lap 2017. And ever since then, I have just been sprinting and just going with it. Gennady Jacobs was my very first fight. I had no idea what I was doing. Just like, because this kind of media is very different. It's almost like paparazzi style, but it's interesting. And I learned on the job, and that's pretty much my story. And here we are today.
Now you're answering questions, so you're moving up. You're gradually progressing. But you have done a lot of work with the Ring magazine and other. You're a WBC ambassador, I think. Is that right?
The influencer, yeah. Well, ambassador, same thing. I have. It's funny that people don't realize this. A lot of people don't know my story. Is that they may think that for Ring, I didn't get paid for almost 13 months. So technically it was like an internship. So I learned my craft. I learned everything on the job. I asked a million questions. I watched other people, but I also did my homework. I do read a lot. You've seen my notebooks. I'm a note taker. And, but it was Doug Fisher. I said one day, I remember I got my wisdom tooth pulled out. I'm like, you know what, let me just ask if I can start getting paid. And he's like, absolutely, you deserve it. And ever since then, it was just, I'm like, now I could actually say I was getting paid after 13 months. So people who say I don't like to get paid for what I do, I go, learn your craft. It's like an internship in any business. And that's the best thing to do. And then WBC is just, I've always been around it. And I love the belt. I love all the sanctioning bodies, but WBC is because what they do for WBC Cares. People don't realize all these boxers, they go to different hospitals, the charities that they do. And I've always said this, WBC does not need to post every little thing that they do to help the need, to help people pay for funerals. They don't need to do that because that's just not them. And people always have a different view about them. And I get it with the, what is that called? The, what is Canelo? The
franchise champion?
Franchise. Trust me. I've had many conversations with Mauricio, and people don't realize it. Like, we get in it, and still I kind of understand, and I still kind of don't, but hey, it's all right. So yeah, that's how I saw you. I didn't meet you, but I remember doing my work in the WBC room, the interactive room. Yes. And I was like, who's this guy? And you're like, can I? I'm like, oh, go ahead. But yeah, that was the very first time I saw you. And I'm like, IFL, okay, all right.
I was dripped in IFL stuff, IFL t-shirt, IFL tracksuits, just so, because Cook is recognisable. Like, you're recognisable. I wasn't quite recognisable stateside. Yeah, so I was like, IFL cap, IFL t-shirt.
You're a walking billboard.
Exactly, yeah, just to get my thing. Cynthia, you've also got a podcast I want to mention as well, just talking about your notes, because during this lockdown, you started a podcast called the Real Talk, the Real Fight with the Real, I can't remember what it's called.
The Real Fight with Cynthia Conte. It's the same as my personal YouTube channel, but this was a podcast. Actually, I knew I wanted to start a podcast. I didn't know exactly what it would be. And during quarantine, that became my quarantine hustle, since we had no access to fighters physically. And I figured, let's just start this now. And the interview, the very first one that I dropped with the audio series with Bob Arum, that was 2 years in the making. That was an interview. I actually wanted to do a sit down, but this was the best time. And I'm actually glad it turned into an audio series. So that was a passion project of mine. And that was like, it's like a mini documentary in audio, and you've heard it. So
well, I'm going to say there was things in that. I've probably listened to maybe 15, 20 Bob Arum interviews, and it's all been boxing related. Obviously, on IFL TV, we've had Bob on maybe 20, 30 times. So I watched them interviews. And I think when you get YouTube sort of channels similar to IFL, it might be the same generic stuff that you're asking Bob. Now, your interview, your podcast, for people that haven't listened to it, go and listen to it. Follow Cynthia Conte, go and listen to it, because you get down to him being with JFK's.
He worked for Robert Kennedy. A lot of people don't know that. So a lot of the casual fans, and even some of the writers in boxing, like Kevin Ioli, like just all the writers that you see for print, they're like, I didn't know that about Bob Arum. And they've interviewed him several years even before me. But I did 5 decades on him. And my whole goal was to find out who Bob Arum was before the promoter. How did he did the main thing I remember, he kept saying, I didn't give a shit about boxing, Sin. I didn't even like boxing. I was a lawyer. I was a tax attorney for JFK, his when he was president. So he worked under Robert Kennedy. So it's crazy, because all these historical fighters he worked with, or I mean, even Muhammad Ali, he did not even see. Well, I don't want to give away the podcast, because you have to see when Bob Arum actually watched his first fight, and who introduced him to Muhammad Ali, and how he watched the first fight. It's incredible. So I really got him to tell some stories that people didn't know, and he spits some facts, and he even tells like modern things that just made me laugh out loud. And you heard that. It's just it just happened to be the anniversary 2 days prior that I interviewed him. It just happened to be, and he chose the date. We're like, let's just do this. And I'm like, oh my God, it was his anniversary in boxing. He's 88 years old. And I'm a numbers person, not like there's meanings for different numbers. And it was all just the boxing gods were talking to me. That's pretty much all I'm going to say. But I love that one. And, sadly, all my interviews on my podcast cannot be an audio series, because it is a lot of work, which I love, but also they are kind of expensive. So, but I just dropped one. I have three podcast episodes, and then an audio series that's been taking some time, but that's going to blow your mind. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I'm going to just say, get onto that. For people watching this, go and watch the podcast with Bob Arum, because I really enjoyed it. It's very insightful. It takes you, like you said, you've done 5 decades on him, which was really, really, really insightful. And I text you or Instagram message you and saying, wow, I didn't know that. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So, well done on that. Cynthia, I was want to get you, because your catchphrase is fight night, bitches, or
yeah.
Do it for me.
Okay. It's fight night, bitches!
See, you always say that. So when boxing was back last night, I was like, I watched your Instagram story and you're like, boxing's back, fight night, bitches. And I was like, boxing's back. So it's good to get Cynthia on the channel to talk about the first boxing event that we've seen for months and months and months. However, there has been some sort of breaking news an hour ago.
I know. I saw that. I'm like, no, is this real? And then when I saw it on Sky Sports, I'm like, oh, this is real. This is real.
Fury and Joshua, 2 fights in 2021. What is your initial thoughts?
It has to happen. I mean, that's the biggest fight for UK. They have all the belts. I get it. I know Deontay Wilder wants the rematch. I understand, and it's contractual. But if we're stuck in a pandemic, God forbid, who knows how long, then it makes sense, because even Anthony Joshua said that he doesn't mind fighting without a crowd. I've always said this, and boxers know this. Every boxer has had a come up and they've never had a crowd. They've all fought on like at the beginning of a card or not on an undercard, where the only people in the audience is their family, the judges, the commission, their team, and that's pretty much it. And the people that work in the venue. So I commend Anthony saying that that he needs to fight. If not, he goes a whole year without fighting. But I'm curious to see how that fight's going to happen. But I'm glad it's a 2-fight deal. Did they say where it might it's going to happen in O2 or Saudi, or
I think
probably Saudi because it's the most money.
Well, I think it's you said you're a numbers person. I think
have fun.
I think it's you said you're a numbers person, so I think with the numbers make sense. It's going to be in terms of finance and money, like you said. Saudi Arabia seems thing, but Bob Arum said it could be Macau. I heard another story that could be in Australia at Christmas time, around Christmas time. Ooh. So
well, I mean, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And Saudi has a decent amount of money. So why not?
Definitely. But for you, Cynthia, after watching the last performances with Joshua and Ruiz and Tyson Fury Wilder, who stands out as number one heavyweight for you at this moment in time?
Fury.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about the belts. It's the way he performed. I understand Deontay, he defended his title 10 times, and that not many people can do that. But the way Tyson, he performed in the ring, like the first one was a draw, but it was a very close fight. But the second time when he said, I'm going to knock him out in the second or third round, no one believed him. He changed his entire game plan. The way he fought, it was like a totally different Tyson, because we're not used to that. And I'm thinking, man, if he's able to be adaptable and he's able to just change, like get rid of his team and start new, which is unheard of, and he's able to win in that kind of fashion, I mean, hands down to him. And he has a great story, just for him to come back the way he did. And he's training every day. You see him on his IG stories, his kids, his wife. I mean, he really is. He really does love the sport, and he wants to continue. And I know he wants to kick Anthony Joshua's ass. I would love to see the fight. I want to see this UK, who's the best out of the best. So I think Fury as of right now. And he's also the WBC champ, and he has the ring belt.
Yeah, you said it, WBC and ring belt. But see, I read some, I think it was a Ring Magazine rankings that said Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and Dillian Whyte. And that's the first time in history that we've had the three
Brits. I really do feel bad for Dillian Whyte. He's like, I said it to Eddie Hearn, he's like the little redheaded stepchild. No one knows when he's going to fight because he was... it's kind of like he's like the middle child like me. It's like, well, when do I get attention? I've done everything I have. It's like, throw me a bone over here. But I'm what, boxing was born in the UK. You fans are the best fans. I've never been to the UK for a fight, but in Vegas, just even the sea of fans walking to the arena was a moment to just take in. And like, wow, if this is Vegas, I can't even imagine what the UK fans are like there. So
it's like, I think it's the vibe in Vegas is different because you've got the hotel and the casino and stuff like that, and all the fun bars. It's Vegas, baby. So, but in the UK, it's like that. You got the fans singing and all that. There's only one Tyson.
Yeah.
I mean, that
you guys have, honestly, I said this. It was during the when Terry Harper fought. It was probably the last DAZN fight. You guys, the music that you guys played during the breaks and all the walkout music. I mean, I'm with it. I'm like sitting here dancing, and then the music here we get is just, it's not my cup of tea, but it's good stuff. I'm like, I love it. I love all the walkouts.
You're going, once all the travel bans get lifted, quarantine's over, lockdown's over, everything, back to normal, shall we say, if it goes back to normal, you need to come out for a fight.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm dying to go to a fight there and just see how, because I'm curious, but I know that it's different in Vegas since you've experienced. We have tables, and when you sit, either you sit in a room or even for a fight, you have a table or you maybe have a chair. But I guess in UK, it's literally a laptop, like lap. You put your.
That's why it's called a lap.
I'm like, okay, I can do that.
You're all scrammed in like sardines. It's like one chair, and it's one chair like cable tied to the next chair and stuff like that. So you're really pinned in. So you're literally smelling the next guy's breath along the line. You know, that's so it's different. I remember the first time I done an American show, and it was like at the press conference, it was like food and everything spread out. I was like, we don't get this in the UK. We get tea and biscuits. Like here, you've got like pizza and pasta and sandwiches and Coke cans.
Oh, not all. It depends on the promoter. So some of them are like, I was like, don't we even get water? But no, it's different. But I can't wait till boxing comes back officially, and then we can all travel and it just won't be the same. We'll still be wearing masks and they'll socially distance us. The one thing, you guys get longer interviews than us. Obviously, I noticed that. They're like, go next.
Listen, it was the mean boxing show. But let's just air this out.
Peaky Blinders.
Let's just air this out. It was me and Andy Purell from Boxing Social.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we normally in the UK, there's a queue, and we go up, and we do an interview, and we've got patience, so to speak. Let's just say we've got patience in the UK.
We don't. We're like, we got stuff to do. We have editing. We got a lot of stuff.
Marcos was like, come on, man. You need to move to Andy.
We all were.
Yeah.
We all were.
So you from
now you know.
Yeah, now we know, like, it's 5 minutes for Eddie, and that's it in the US. But
yeah. Because if not, we'll yank you off.
Exactly. You didn't give me much of a hard time. You all invited me out for dinner in Texas.
Yeah. Good. It was fun. I mean, we didn't go for like barbecue. We went for seafood, but it was fun. We had a great time. We played mini golf, which Steven, KO artist. You said you were a golfer. I mean, he kicked your ass. Sorry.
I'll let him win.
I didn't do too bad, I have to say.
I was just going to just put that I was drunk. Let's just say that. I had one beer.
One beer, right? One beer.
Yeah.
Imagine that was our last fight. I mean, you had a fight in Dubai.
That's right,
but that we didn't. Little did we know that would be our last fight for US. And
that's crazy.
That's pretty much it. And we're here now.
I'm lucky I managed to get to Dubai, because I was due to come out to New York for Mick Collins and Shakur Stevenson in March.
Mm-hmm.
And I was flying out 8 o'clock Friday morning, and I got a phone call at 10:30 Thursday night saying, Andrew, it's cancelled. So that 11th hour, I got called saying you're not going to New York. So it was like, I was all packed, ready to go, all excited like I normally am before I go fly to the States, you know. So, yeah.
Have you been to New York before?
Yeah, I've been to New York. I've been a few times, 4 or 5 times. Yeah, so I love New York. Love it.
But sadly, you missed out on St. Paddy's Day.
Well, I was there at Collins' debut, so I have been at New York St. Patrick's Day before.
Okay.
But this one was going to be bigger because he was actually fighting on St. Patrick's Day. It was the Tuesday. Yeah. So
that was devastating.
I know.
That was devastating, man.
It's strong. But like I say, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get back to it. Because like I say, I'm fed up. I just want to get back to it. I just love boxing so much. So I want to talk about the fight card last night, the ESPN Top Rank one. But just quickly, I miss it, and I just can't wait to get back to it. But there's that light at the end of the tunnel. Like I said, we've got that Top Rank is putting on another show Thursday.
Tuesday. So yesterday, Thursday, and then the following Tuesday and Thursday, and I think the following maybe a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I don't remember. It's supposed to be 2 months of boxing, but I know from what I know they haven't approved July show yet. But it's in the works right now.
Let's talk about last night then. I'm 100% certain that you watched the card, being the fan that you are. What did you make of the atmosphere and the fights themselves?
Okay, I have said this before. I mean, obviously the fans make the atmosphere, but in light of it and scope of everything, when I watch the UFC fights without a crowd, I love it. Because I'm very savage. I love to hear the crack of a punch. I mean, I like to hear bones break, sadly, but it and without the crowd, because I know it mentally does something to them, like if they hear the cheers and the boos, but they have to be able to really think on the fly, like, are they going to be able to change their game plan? Are they going to be able to hear their coaches or the other coaches to see what they're going to do? But last night, Jared Anderson, the heavyweight Tyson Fury sparring partner. First of all, Pat's fan, thank you very much for putting that up there. What he wore, a Patriots fan. But just listening to his punches, and he's young. He's a prospect. I loved it. I'm like, oh my God, I loved it. And what Top Rank did was, it was beautiful. Their stage was beautiful. They really try to make the experience come through on television. And was it perfect? No, but everyone's learning. It's a learning curve right now, so they're all trying to figure it out. But it was good. The fights, even though I think it was 3 hours, like six, 7 rounds in total, because they were short fights. What are you going to expect? You're not going to get the best matches because you have UK fighters that can't travel or in different countries. So they have to make do with what they have. But they were decent fights. But
that's the thing, is there is going to be teething problems until we get like the production down and everything along them lines and stuff like that. But Top Rank and Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn, like we're getting fights in July with MTK, Eddie Hearn, and Frank Warren. So
okay, your backyard boxing, as I said.
Have you seen? Well, it's
I mean, if you have 15, 20 acres sitting around, why not?
Well, I tell you what, they couldn't fit in my back garden anyway. But if Eddie can do it, then, because I can't remember who it was I spoke to. It was a young fighter from the UK. It might have been Dalton Smith. I can't remember. He said that Eddie Hearn's a trailblazer. If anyone's going to put boxing on in his backyard of his house, well, it's the Match from Offices. It was his old house. Yeah, from Offices. It's going to be Eddie Hearn. And I think that with Eddie, the way he does the production and stuff like that, and the Sky Sports,
he'll have fireworks and drones and blimps and the whole shebang. Like it's earned with Hearn, as I always say. He wants to bring sexiness and the fun club vibe to boxing. So I want to see. I always say backyard boxing. I'm happy he leveled up. Like, forget UFC has an island, which is Abu Dhabi, which we just learned. But it's like, oh, let me just stage fights in my backyard, in my mega backyard. Why not? So do it. I'm excited. And as long as it's all about health and safety, the safety of the fighters, that's fine by me. So
I think so, because you get a lot of when you interview a fighter and you're saying, will you fight this guy? And they'll say, I'll fight him in his backyard. Well,
right?
Yeah. So
right?
Now you're going to fight him.
You got it. That's their motto. I mean, you got it. And I'm so excited because obviously you've seen how Eddie has done fights in UK in a venue with, all the beautiful lights and the fog and like the theatrics. I'm really curious to see what he's going to do. Who knows? He might have barbecues, like literally a barbecue, and go ride a bull or something. But I'm excited for that. And where's Frank Warren? Where's MTK? Where are they going to stage their fights?
Well, I spoke to Jamie Conlon, who's MTK's vice president, 2 weeks ago, or last week I think it was, and he said that they've been in talks with numerous cities in the UK and Ireland, and they've got a couple of warehouses booked out, and I think he said a hotel. So they've got one hotel and one warehouse in sort of like Liverpool, Belfast, London, Manchester, and I can't remember the other cities. So I think they're going. I quite like the idea of it being in a warehouse.
I like that.
That Fight Club.
That old school, yes.
Don't talk about Fight Club like you're walking into the warehouse and there's a fight going on. I quite like that idea.
The first rule.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Talk about Fight Club. That would be awesome.
You're right. I think that would be cool. I think the warehouse, if you find a warehouse in the city, just put a fight on in there.
Yeah. Oh, there you go, Frank Warren. He just gave you an idea. Eddie Hearn, just stick to your backyard boxing.
Yeah. If anyone who wants to come up with ideas, me and Cynthia are here for one-on-ones with every promoter that wants to go back and forth and do some brainstorming about where to show fights. Now, Cynthia, that photo behind you of you and Mike Tyson is everywhere.
Everywhere. And Mike it's Tyson, funny.
He's your favourite fighter, isn't he, Mike Tyson?
He is my favorite fighter. I mean, he was my favorite fighter before I even knew about boxing. And he's the reason why I fell in love with boxing. And when people ask me what is my favorite fight, it's Tyson versus Razor Ruddock too. It's not like the Hagler Hearns, which I do love. But this one was the fight that I remember seeing the first one and I'm like, oh, then I saw the second one. I'm like, oh, this is good. And I don't know what it was about that, but it made me really think. I'm like, okay, how did he do that in the ring? I mean, his knockouts are so fast, but then when I started watching other fights, I became very interested in the art of the fight, just to hit and not to get hit. What are they going to do? The ring generalship. It's like, it's boxing. They say, I mean, it's a sport, but it's a mental game. So you have to be able to obviously think ahead of what your opponent's going to do. So for me, I found that's like, it's such a mind fuck. It's like, wow. So it's incredible. And I love fighting. I love blood. I love a nice, good knockout as long as they're healthy. But this was back in 2014 when Undisputed, his book, he did a Broadway play. He toured and Spike Lee was a director. And mind that his shirt is completely soaked in sweat and no one can tell. And I did a meet and greet and I was the last one. He was very irritated, just like not happy. And all the pictures
smiling in that picture though.
Well, the reason why, so he's all the pictures before me, he's just like, I was like, oh shit, he's not happy. And the photographer was a professional photographer. You couldn't use your phone. So they're like, okay, you're next, let's go. And I'm thinking, okay. And I'm just sitting there and they're like, we have to change the film or the card out. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, say something. I'm like, I have a dog named Mike Tyson. And he looked at me, he's like, what? Really? I'm like, yes. And I did. And so he's like, I want to see. And I'm like, so I got my phone and I was so nervous. And I showed him his Twitter, at Mike Tyson, the dog, and his Instagram. And he's like, let me see more pictures. And so I showed him like with the gloves and he was like, oh my God. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope he doesn't get mad because I named my dog after him. It was a little black pug. Oh, rest my little baby soul. But so then he's like, you like boxing? I'm like, I love boxing because of you. And naturally he's like, really? And he's like, what's your favorite fight? I'm like, Tyson versus Razor Ruddock too. And he looked at me like, how did you know that? So it's, it's like you go in the box and it's like those little hidden gems. And then they said, okay, time for a picture. And he smiled. I'm the only one out of the entire Undisputed when he did his tour, he's smiling.
That's a great story, man. I really, really like that. Because like I say, when you're doing Instagram stories or whatever you're doing, you're always told your phone, when that right, Mike Tyson? And you talk.
I always do.
In the room, so.
And Kevin Ioli, Yahoo Sports, the writer, he interviewed him and Mike Tyson knows about me. He showed him my channel. He showed my interviews. He showed this picture and he's like, she always talks to you. Like, and I didn't know during one of my audio series interviews, because I did video for my last one for Sean Oakman, the football player. Mm-hmm. And then for this audio series that still has to drop, I didn't realize my blazer is the same print as his. I'm like, we're twinning.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but
it was meant to be.
It really was.
So what are your thoughts about Mike Tyson? You must have seen Mike Tyson hitting the pads in the shape that he's in at this moment in time. Are you happy as a Mike Tyson fan that he's wanting to come back? Or are you sort of like, Mike, come on, please? Well,
at first when he dropped the videos, I was like, oh yes, please come back. But then I'm like, you're 53. All fighters, you never retire. You're a fighter all your life. And yeah, he still has power. But I always said if he does it for charity and the other person wears headgear, then yes, for charity, but not come back. If it's a sanctioned fight, no. But he still has it. I mean, he looks better than some heavyweights right now. I'm not gonna say, but I would love to see it, but just for charity, Tyson.
Just say the names. Just say the names. You know what I'm like? I like to name drop.
No, I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm not gonna say nothing. I would love to see, even if it's Evander Holyfield. After the bite fight, they could do, just for just cheeky humor. Just maybe Evander like nibbles on his ear for fun and just for charity. But no, Evander looks good too. I mean, they're all back.
Exactly. Well, maybe I'll come back. Maybe you should come back. Maybe you should
I know Lennox Lewis is going to come out, Vitaly Klitschko, like all of the greats. You never know. Nigel Benn. That would be fun just to watch them all come back. It's like they're senior citizens, but some of them could be better than the heavyweights right now. Charity, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, and all the promoters. I say do it for. I say do it for charity for boxers, like retired boxers or in need, because or medical. I think that's a good one, and kids.
But let's talk about Evander Holyfield. Well, this was maybe a month and a half ago that Evander Holyfield and Tyson sort of agreed an exhibition fight to face each other. Selfishly, I want to see it.
I do too. Exhibition, they should say charity in there, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But exhibition, I think maybe 3 rounds at best, because I don't know if they'll last more than 3 rounds. I don't know their cardio, but I just there's a reason why they retire. I like them to just. Tyson is doing very well in his career as an actor, as a Tyson smoking weed and doing his podcast. And Evander is doing very well. Like, and he has a son, Evan Young, who's basically a mini him in the ring. And so I just, for charity, guys, that's all.
Charity, guys, you heard it here. Cynthia, right now, you mentioned that we can't fly fighters in anymore for the foreseeable future. For you stateside, what fight do you want to see made that can only be made like American or American-based fighter versus American-based fighter? Is there a fight out there that during this lockdown you've thought, now it's time for that fight to happen? Like we've said it this side with the UK with Joshua and Fury, that now it's time to make that fight. So what kind of fight do you need?
Man, that's hard because all the fights I want to see, they live here or in different countries. Like, man, I don't know if I want to see.
Is that obvious from Errol Spence and Crawford, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but we know that's never going to happen. That's for me. That's the dream matchup that needs to happen. It's been stirring. It's been boiling. But after his accident, people have said during sparring he hasn't missed a step. And but allegedly he got into another car accident. Like someone hit him. I'm not sure. I read that. I don't know if it's true, but I'm not trying to spread rumors. But I don't think he got hurt. But I don't know. Maybe it could happen because if that's all they can do for a good year is that they have to play on this side, on different sides of the street in the U.S. They have to make that fight happen. They have to. But we shall see. And I think that's the only one I want made out of all the U.S.
I'm going to give you one. I'm going to change your mind. I'm going to try and change your mind. What about Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez?
David Hay?
Devin Haney.
Oh, I'm like, David Hay? I'm like, what are you talking about? Devin Haney, I forgot about. It's weird because Devin Haney, everyone calls him out. You have Gervonta Davis, you have Ryan Garcia. All of them live here, so yeah, they should just do a whole little
round robin.
With them, like a little tournament, because all they do is, yesterday Gervonta and Ryan were spitting some fire on Twitter. They was sipping. I'm just sipping my tea over here watching. I was like, and I remember I was texting Ryan. I go, this is the only fights that we're gonna kind of get. He's like, I know, right? And so like on Twitter, but that would be good. I want to see Devin, and yeah. Teofimo, since he can't fight Loma, which is the fight that we all wanted to see. Yep. But you know what? You got to fight. You have to fight. If this is the only way, make it happen. Ryan Garcia, I don't know what happened with this, $200,000, but I think he's supposed to be fighting Abner Ramades that lives here, who fought out of my gym years ago. So that would be fun. And just, the shit talking that they do. One's older, one's younger, one is more good looking, one has more Instagram followers. It's like, just fight. Just get in there, shut up, and fight. That's all we want to see. Prove yourself with your hands.
I couldn't have said it better, Cynthia. Yeah. Shut up and fight.
Shut up and fight.
It's not that easy, is it? To be honest, let's be honest. It's never that easy.
It's the promoters, and it's and people have said. Shakur Stevenson said last night how he was asked how different was it fighting in this kind of atmosphere besides everything, because everything was different. He said, cutting weight, training especially because their little gym is right next door to the room. So it's not like a full gym that they kind of get warmed up in, and it's not really their home. So but this is the new normal. This is the new normal for all of us, and we all are going to have to adapt. But I want to see if who has been on weight. Who Lomachenko said it best. He was like, you could hypothetically say so-and-so is going to fight, but it depends on what weight class they come in after quarantine.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
But so I want you to ask you, like, I seen all the boxing gloves, the hand wraps on that shelf above you and stuff like that. And you've owned gyms in LA and stuff like that. Have you ever sort of like done any sparring or anything like that? Yeah.
It's not fun. I mean, I know what it's like to throw. When there were fights, even before I was in boxing.
Sorry for jumping in this, Cynthia. I've seen you throw hands.
I'm pretty strong. Strong, I always try to work on technique, and when there's fights, when I was with my trainer, now he moved to Dallas, every time there was a fight on at Wildcard, or even if there was a fight that I watched, I'm like, okay, we saw this and so did this, what could they have done different? So we actually go in there and do, like, if they threw a right hand, how do you feint it, or what should it be done with the footwork? So it's like very methodical for me. I'm like, because I'm all about footwork. When someone has excellent footwork, it's a game changer. You look at Shakur, the way he sidestepped last night, the angles, he worked the ring so incredibly well. Lomachenko, the angles, because, well, for Lomachenko, he was a dancer. And I've always said, boxers, go do Pilates, because it gets light on your feet and people think it's dumb, but it elongates your muscles. Take dance class, because boxers, even though you can skip rope, but you have to have rhythm. If you have a dance rhythm, like Lomachenko does like this 1-2 kickball change. So people who are professional dancers, they'll know. And people are like, well, what was that? I'm like, that's a kickball change. It's like, for me, I already know it. And I'm thinking, damn. And go take ballet. I'm telling you, it will change your life, and you'll see the way you change in the ring. I'm not gonna say you're gonna look like Lomachenko, but it's one of those. But I love boxing.
Be a coach, Cynthia. You should be a coach. Open up another gym and start training fighters.
Coach, no. I like interviewing people. I like to ask them questions. I like to find out the dirt. I like to know about them, not just necessarily about boxing, because I like human interest stories, and that's why my podcast is human interest, and they're not just boxers. Like the last one, I don't know if you heard it, Sean Oakman's a football player. And
I've heard the clips on Instagram. I haven't heard the
clip already. You're like, so, but it's good.
So how can they find it before you go, Cynthia? Because I know you've got a busy day with other interviews and that. Everyone wants to get a chat with Cynthia. That's quite cool. How will people get onto your podcast? Where would they find the link to? Because like I said to you, that Bob Arum one for me was just brilliant. So how can people find the podcast?
The podcast, The Real Fight with Cynthia Conte, you can get it on anchor.fm, the app, or you can get on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And you can see, I'm also doing like YouTube podcast footage for certain ones on my YouTube channel, which is The Real Fight with Cynthia Conte. And then you can also see all my other interviews for Ring Magazine, the Ring TV YouTube channel, and then Instagram at The Real Fight Girl, and Twitter at Cynthia_Conte.
There we go. That's a lot.
I should just do it like a bing. Yeah.
You're juggling too much.
No, well, it's surprising that during this quarantine, it's when we got stuck, it's like, well, what do we do? And people were frozen because we were, and I even said, we were very spoiled because we were able to just go to to any press conference, the fights, and now we're just like, what are we going to do? So this is when people have to really think outside the box, and we're going to see who really learns something, who thrives, and it's a true test for people. We're going to see the adversities that you face within yourself, if you're going to come out a better person or not.
Definitely.
And I think I'm doing pretty well. Like, I've worked my ass off in my pajamas, but I'm still making it happen.
Well, let's be honest. You're on your jammies a lot, but you do walk about the neighbourhood with a glass of wine. There's a little tidbit for people that don't know. Cynthia takes an afternoon walk with a glass of wine. It's not a small glass of wine; it's a big glass of wine as well.
Well, I mean, it's like a 6-9 ounce, depending. It's my afternoon quarantine 1 o'clock walk around my block. It's not. People are like, "You're out in the public." I go, "Well, yeah, public," but my neighbors, they see me, they're like, "Hello," and I just, I'm very careful, and I need a break. I need fresh air, and just it's wine.
It's wine. It's wine. It's fine.
Wine is fine. Mm-hmm.
Wine is fine.
Yeah.
Cynthia, I've got to say thank you so much for this little chat. I do appreciate it. Is there anything you would like to add for people watching this?
You know what? Go watch. I mean, the people that are out there, just support everyone. Be kind. Right now, it's I'm not gonna, go off on certain things, but just be kind out there, because you never know what's going on with people mentally and emotionally, because this is a hard time for all of us. And support one another. Watch people's videos and stop talking shit to people. And if you do boxers, back it up in the ring, because we want to see it. Yeah, that's pretty much
well said. Well said, Cynthia. I'll probably get another catch up with you soon. If any big news breaks or anything like that in the fight game, I'll probably get you back on for another chat, because you're very knowledgeable, and you absolutely love the sport. I don't think anyone would love the sport more than me, but I think I might stand in second place here. Might give you the top spot.
It gives me the butterflies when I know boxing is back. It's like the world stops for me. I'm like, don't bother me. Let me just watch it. And one thing before we end, I know that you interviewed Michaela Mayer and Terry Harper. That's the fight I want to see.
I'm going to try and do an press conference, get them both on Zoom, and see if I can get them on that. That would be quite good.
I felt so bad that she couldn't fight on this card. That's 2 training camps, and but it was weird. She tested negative when she went back home. So I would love to see Terry Harper. I'm a big fan of Terry Harper. I mean, I don't know if you saw, I tweeted when she won the belt. I'm like, and I even told Eddie, I go, she kind of like reminded me of like a school teacher, because I've never seen her fight. And I was like, and she tweeted back, she's like, a school teacher. I'm like, I'm sorry, no, but you bang, you can bang. I'm like, I'm a huge fan of hers. So I can't wait to see them in the ring. And I just want boxing back. Let's go. Let's make it happen. And I hope Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn are playing nice and making fights happen.
Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but we've got wishful thinking.
It's wishful thinking. You never know. Well, hopefully. I would want to see them fight in the ring.
What, Eddie Hearn and Frank?
Yeah. Like in sumo wrestler outfits?
Yeah. The big punching gloves.
Yes. Yes, that would be fun. But yeah, I can't wait to see. And Jillian Wyatt, I want to see the heavyweights. They need to all fight right now. Well, we shall see. We shall see who comes out.
Definitely. Like I say, you stay safe, Cynthia. And like I say, thank you so much for this. It was really, really interesting. Normally, when I've talked to you, you've got a glass of wine in your hand. So it was quite good to... Is there one there? Is there a glass of wine there?
No, it's a water bottle.
Oh, there we go.
It's not time just yet. Even though it's 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock somewhere, it's quarantine. I'm not driving anywhere, so I'm working.
Exactly. So, well, that's the good way to look at it. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate your time. Stay safe, and hopefully I'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thanks, Andy. I appreciate it. All right. Boxing is back, bitches. Woo!